So welcome everybody to Thibaut Souyris talking about how you can use LinkedIn for warm outreach. I just put a worksheet from you, which you kindly shared to the chat. Just make a copy of that profile, make a copy top left. Thibaut is my go-to person if anything it comes to like T-shaped sales development rep for people that are not just basically doing demos, but also social selling, creating their own content. And he's going to tell you like really useful, actionable stuff over the last roughly 30 minutes. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Manuel, for having me. So, hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about using LinkedIn for warm outreach. So, it's another sales guy telling you all about that. Here's basically what we're going to do today. So, it's going to be very tactical. That's why I really recommend you go and download the worksheet, make a copy if you want to work with it, because you're in view mode only, but you're going to be able to work along with me. So, first thing we'll do, I'll talk to you about the concept I've developed called the T-shaped sales development framework, which is a good kind of sales development framework you can use, especially if you're in early stage. And if your reps are in early stage, it's really something that you can use right now. Then we're going to go and directly work on how you can optimize your LinkedIn profile for sales and making sure it's really ready and it's not optimized for finding a job or these kind of things. And finally, you'll learn how to use content for warm outreach, not your content, but someone else's content. So I'm going to show you like a few tricks to get started whenever you're selling on LinkedIn. So about me, here's a picture of me when I was 22 years old. As you can see, I had like a lockdown haircut before lockdowns were trendy. And I was in Canada there. I was actually working I was a student at HEC Montréal studying marketing and also working as let's say I was selling ad space for a magazine and also doing some kind of magazine documentary with that. And so the magazine was about aviation. So it was pretty cool. I went into this airplane and we kind of like dropped some parachutists from there. That was skydivers, you call that. That was pretty cool. But basically, I've changed a bit, gained a bit of weight, reduced a bit in terms of hair. And it was, let me check, someone 90 years old. Okay. And basically, I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Labs, which is a company that I've created where I train and coach tech sales people to start more conversations. And the way I created this company, there's a quick story for that. I've been in sales for now, actually since I'm 15 years old. I started selling airplane cleaning services when I was 15 at Lausanne Airport. So it was an airport. I'm actually from Lausanne. So I'm one of these Swiss guys who doesn't speak German and just speak French. And so basically, I've been in sales for 15 years. And I created Sales Lab around 2.5 years ago because I was tired of actually making others rich. And I was working for a company called Branch Metrics, which is like a deep linking company. So very complicated tech company from California. And it's a job I had taken. I was actually three months in the job, and then I realized I hated it. I just was coming from another job for a company called Applause, where I was selling crowd testing for 2.5 years, and I brought the French market from 0 to 2.5 million of annual recurring revenue. Switched to this new job, and then I really hated it because I was just like not a big fan of all the kind of like Silicon Valley vibe. Of this job. And what happened, I went there in California for a sales kickoff. And then I met this guy named Skip Miller. And he was actually delivering a sales training. And if you've ever attended a sales training, you know how boring that can be. And actually, when I went to the training, I was ready to fall asleep after 10 minutes. But from 8 in the morning until 6, I was like hooked. So I really loved it. I really like learned a ton of things. And then, I actually after 3 hours, I was like, okay, that's something I need to do right now. I need to actually just leave my job and start doing sales training. And so I just waited 2 months. Then I left my job. I created the company Sales Labs. And now it's been 2.5 years and it's been a pretty cool journey. And by the way, I'm now working, with Skip Miller, so the trainer who got me inspired. And we're working together on, training tech sales people to actually close more deals. So that's a bit about me. You can hear me on stuff like the podcast of Manuel and Patrick. You can hear me read me on G2, Sales Hacker, different types of podcasts. I also have partnership with companies like Vidyard. So I'm pretty much like, talking a lot about tech sales and selling in EMEA. But enough about me. So what you can do right now is already add me on LinkedIn, So you're gonna have to go and pull your phone and get used to that because we're gonna be using it quite a lot today. You can just scan, open your camera app and scan this. Or Manuel, if you could put my LinkedIn profile in the chat, would be amazing, so people can see about it. But just play around with the scan, so you can do that. And Manuel, while we're there, can you confirm that you got the link in the chat?
For sure, done.
Okay, cool, perfect. Thank you. So now another scan. So I'm gonna do a small thing, and what you can do is, again, keep your camera, scan this link here, this QR code, and answer the question, how good are you at booking meetings on LinkedIn? There are 10 stars, and the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're like crushing it, 1, you have no clue what you're doing. We'll see if people are actually following or not. Okay, we have 2 votes. Okay. Good. 7, 1, 3, 4. Okay. Average score is 5.8, 5.6. Very good. It's going down, 4.9. I like that. Okay, let's just wait until 20 and then I move on. So I need 3 more votes. Come on. Okay, 21 votes. So we're now on an average of 4.8, which is interesting. So I think we're like pretty much at the middle. So it means we have like a strong concentration of people who are really good at 7 and quite a lot of people that are a bit under that. So that's very interesting to see that. So basically, thanks a lot for voting that. Don't worry, there's going to be another poll after at the end, so you'll be able to play around with that. But basically, I'm asking this question because LinkedIn has become like a really cool platform to build relationships. That's how we met with Manuel, through LinkedIn, and that's basically how I get almost all my business. And back in last summer, I was thinking about a model to help future-proof the SDR job, the sales development rep job. Because basically what's been happening in sales is that there's like an increase in technology that allows us to really multiply and leverage our outreach. And it really helps us actually increase the outcome. And the problem is if you're doing some boring sequences that everyone actually ignores, you're going to multiply by 10 the number of no answers you're going to get. So you're going to get pretty much no answers. And at some point, you actually won't be able to start conversations. If you're a founder, you won't have opportunities. And the only option you're going to have is to raise money, what I call a dilution event. And I'm sure Manuel really will second me on that. So it's actually it's actually something that happens. Or if you know how to use the tools and what to say in these tools, you're going to get more opportunities, more recurring revenue, more bookings, and then you'll be able to actually get more success in that. And so basically the idea of this T-shaped sales development model that I've created, it comes from marketing, which is called the T-shaped marketer, is actually to develop a few skills. And historically in sales development, what we need to do is to do some outreach, cold calling, cold emailing. So that's typically the kind of skills we need to work on. But with this model, it works on 3 things. The first thing is network building. So the idea is to always proactively build your network. So when you have a clear ideal customer profile, why don't you actually go and add 20, 25 people every day on LinkedIn that are fitting with your ICP? By the way, if you do that for a year and half of them agree, that's around 3,600 people that you're going to add. So 3,600 potential prospects. And while you're doing that, so it actually implies to know who's your ICP, to find leads, to do some automation and optimize your LinkedIn profile. You need to start serving content to these prospects, so to this network. So you need to experiment around content, you need to plan your content, schedule it, you need to do like some visuals, but the idea is really to start and build what I call problem-centric content. So it's content that is centered around the problem or problems your prospects are trying to solve. And whenever you're doing that, you can actually work on outreach. And the idea of outreach, which is very important, is to be able to first identify triggers and then contact people with a creative and relevant outreach. And whenever you have a network that is growing and you're serving this problem-centric content, you can then do what I call some warm outreach. So you're able to use different stuff like profile visits, people who liked or commented on your post or on other people's posts, and use that to get in touch and have more answers. And basically it's something I've been practicing now for, you know, a bit less than a year. And almost all my opportunities come from that, where I'm able to get a 38-39% reply rate based on the content I'm doing. And that's something, if your customers are active on LinkedIn, that you can go and try to do. So basically, now we're going to work on optimizing your LinkedIn profile. So one thing that is important is to understand that your LinkedIn profile is like a landing page. Very simple. Landing page has one goal. You actually go get people to land on it, click on the call to action. That's exactly the same with your landing page on LinkedIn. But what happens is most people use it to show off. So if you're a founder, you're going to go and say, hey, we are the 360 app for, I don't know, expense management and whatever. We won these awards. We did this, we did that. No one cares. Seriously, no one cares. What they care about is how can you help and solve the problem. And for your employees, often what's going to happen is their LinkedIn profile will be optimized for looking for a job. So actually it's going to say, hey, I've reached this President's Club, you know, like 10 times, the 200% sales achievement, which is totally irrelevant to your prospects. So basically the idea in there, and it's in the worksheet, what needs to be done is to actually work on three things. So your landing page, the first thing you need to have is to make sure that your headline, so your banner actually is clear. So the banner is this kind of, you know, like yeah, the banner you have on LinkedIn is kind of like a billboard that's going to get the attention of people. So really working on getting something that's going to grab the attention, nice colors. I'm going to show you an example after on that. Then you need to have a clear headline. So the headline is like right before your or after your name. Often people say, hey, I'm head of sales or whatever. Here you need to do and explain what you're doing for your prospects. And then finally, once you have the banner that gets the attention, the headline that clarifies what you're doing, you need to have a strong and simple call to action. So let me show you very quickly what I mean there. So here, for example, if you go, you see my screen, there's like this banner here. That's my banner. It's a big blue thing. There's a logo here and there's like a QR code. So it's an experiment I've been running. Actually, I don't know how many people clicked on this QR code. I should check that, but I didn't do. I have then a headline, which is I train and coach tech sales teams to land new meetings and generate more opportunities. So I'm not saying CEO and founder of Sales Labs or whatever. I'm just saying what I'm doing. Training and coaching tech sales teams to land net new meetings and generate more opportunities. And then I have a simple call to action, which is 6 resources to start more conversations and book meetings. You click there, you land on this page, which is another landing page. So if someone came from my profile, saw this, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, this has been like a successful landing page. I got a video here, and then, you know, I got like some free resources, some paid resources, and tons of different things for all kind of different leads that have different level of awareness. And so that's really the idea of your LinkedIn profile, is make sure these 3 elements are clarified and clear. And that's going to be actually, that's going to really help you get some more meetings. And one thing you can do, if you don't have this thing here, is to have like 3 featured sections. So you click on the plus here and you can include links. And for example, you could have like one element that is for cold leads. So most people actually are not ready to go and take a meeting with you, but they are maybe interested in learning about how can you help, I don't know, like solving a specific problem. For me, I have an ultimate LinkedIn outreach sequence that you can get. That's for my cold leads. Then for warm leads, I have my community, the Tshapes Community. And then for hot leads, they can book a call or book like a coaching with me. So that's really the way I'm going to do that. So now let me just go back to using content for warm outreach. So the idea of using content for warm outreach is really important because it's really this thing that allows you, especially as a founder, to focus on what people are putting out there to get in touch with them. So I'm going to give you a very clear example for that, that comes from a sales kickoff I did with Shopify. So basically what we have here is like I think she's managing director of EMEA at Shopify. And basically what she's done, she's talked about like the results of her customers last year. So it's like out of the press, this Black Friday, Shopify merchants in the UK, the 2nd largest market collectively, increased sales by 116% from last year. And then she gives like a detail on that. And think about it. If you're a salesperson for Shopify, you can use that to get in touch with people who like that here, you know? So you have like, I don't know, like some VP global sales. So I'm connected with a lot of them, but typically at Shopify, they work with head of e-commerce. They work like with these kind of people who are around e-commerce. So there's a lot of people in here that are not like team members of Shopify that are working in e-commerce, and that could be interesting. And that's an exercise we've done together. And now if you go on the worksheet, what's happening there is that I've created this kind of soft connect messaging, as I call them, which are small messages you can send to get the attention of your prospect. So I don't know if I found out of these 187, 20 people who are interesting, I can go click on there. I'm going to show you like there. For example, I don't know, let's say Valerie is an example. And I could say, click on connect here. And then instead of saying, hey, Valerie, let's connect, or hey, Valerie, I have this amazing thing I want to sell to you, what you can go is click add a note, and then you're going to say something like this, which is, up, Valerie, I see you also like the post of Shimona about Shopify's merchant performance on Black Friday. If you're into it, I'd love to share 2 tips on how to generate similar results for your spring specials. I'm going to send it, even though I should not, because I'm not working for them. But this, I've been testing it consistently for me with my customers. You get between 60 and 80% answer rate or acceptance rate, and maybe half of them will actually answer and say, yeah, send that to me. So it's totally different than going and saying, hey, let's connect. And then when they accept, you go and start pitching. You really just go. And what you're doing there is that you're using a trigger. So in that case, the trigger is the post I've been using. So this is a good trigger here, the post. Then you're teasing. So instead of saying, hey, I can solve that, you say, so you like that. If you're interested, I can share some more resources. And then you finish with the call to action, which is, are you interested in learning more? And whenever you're doing that, you're actually going to get a lot more answers. You're going to start more conversations. And down the line, you're going to get more business. And the beauty of it is, out of these 187, if I get 20 of them who are interesting for me in my ICP, I can use the exact same message. And this is what you call like prospecting at scale, because I can use the same exact message for everyone. It's always going to be relevant because I've been using this, and that's something that's very interesting there. Another quick tip you can actually go and try is to do that with commenters, but also with profile viewers. So when people actually land on your LinkedIn profile, that's a pretty interesting insight or trigger you can use to tell them that you are actually, that tells you that they potentially, they know about you first, and potentially they are solving a problem you're trying to solve. So for me, if you go and click there, I go on my profile, I'll go and check there. I've got a lot of people who are actually here, but what I can do, for example, is let me find someone here that I got recently. Francois is a good example. I know Francois, we're working together, and I think I got in touch with Francois. That's what I said. Francois, notice you recently visited my LinkedIn profile. Did you find what you were looking for? And then, I get an answer. Hey, honestly, I don't remember. Then we talk. Then I dropped him like a LinkedIn voicemail, which is like a small and cool feature. And then we started talking. We had this conversation, and now we have an active deal going on that has been closed with him. So that's an example of why and how you can use your LinkedIn profile for outreach, and why it's so important to start producing content. Because look at that. I'm going to go here on my profile, and you're going to see every single day of the week, I post stuff. I've been doing that for a year and a half. I went from 2,500 to more than 15,000 followers. And this content is always problem-centric content. I'm not saying, hey, look at me, I'm this amazing executive, I've been working in this company and being successful. Not at all. I just find problems I'm solving. So typically people opening conversations on LinkedIn, having a hard time doing that. And then I talk about this problem. What are the typical solutions? And then people are able to actually get some data, get some learnings there. So for example, here, prospecting with video, using stuff like Vidyard or Loom and sending prospecting videos is really trendy, but it's really hard. So here I explain, how you can do that better. Tease, keep it short, don't overthink it, these kind of things. And this I've been doing every single weekday, and now this kind of thing allows you to actually have a lot of people who are clicking there, following what I'm doing. And if I go and click here, I've got like, let me check. some account executives. I'm working mostly with VPs of sales, account executive, SDRs. And here I get pretty much only people in sales. So I can start so many conversations, and it's a really good way to do that. So that's really the idea in the nature of being T-shaped, is that instead of doing cold calling or cold emailing, you produce content. You have a network that you're growing also. You serve this content to this network, and then you start conversations. And that's super simple. And now I have consistently around 38% reply rate, between 9 and 10% discovery rate. And then, I'm able to generate a lot of opportunities like that. Cool. So now there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be some questions around that. But before we actually go into the questions, I just want to ask you what you will be using down the line based on what we've talked about. So you can scan that again. And the optimizing my LinkedIn headline, you won't actually see that. I didn't talk about this one. Sorry, I forgot to remove it, but you can choose one of these. Or more, one or more actually. Okay, I'm happy some people are like using content, because I know it's quite technical, but like seems like a lot of people have had it no problem. Let me check the questions we have here. Come on, I'm not moving before we do 20 at least. We're at 15 people now. Fantastic. So a lot of people will be using a lot of content. That's really nice. I need one last vote before I can move. Everyone's falling asleep. Okay, we're good. Cool. So seems like you will actually be using a lot of other people's content, and that's smart. So make sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized for that. That's going to help. But this is the fastest way to actually get started, start some conversations. You don't even need to have a brand. You don't even need to start posting content. You can use that, and you can poach your competitors. So you can go on your competition. You can go and find like hashtags on LinkedIn that are relevant to you, or you can go and find some influencers, thought leaders that are talking to your market, and talk with these type of people. So basically now it's like the time for me to go and ask you to scan another thing, and that's going to be the last thing I'm going to ask you to scan. It's called the Tshapes Community. So it's a community I launched at the beginning of the year for salespeople in EMEA. So if you're selling, to customers in Europe or in EMEA, you basically can go to this community, and in this community you have like a library of online training, like video prospecting training, how to do multi-channel outreach training, how to produce content, like 13 weeks of content, one post per day, very easily. And then you get one new training every month with that. There's a Discord group. We are already over 100 in there. And this is actually not something free. It's €10 a month. In Swiss francs, I guess that's pretty much the same. And basically what you can do is go and try it for free. So there's 1 month for free with the code Startup Sales Summit. So you're going to have to go do the sign up, and then you can use that, and you're going to be able to see if that's actually worth any thing or not. And then you can stay if you want to stay, or leave if you don't want to stay. And yeah, that's basically about this special community. So we have tons of different things happening. And if you're looking to hire salespeople, there's 100 tech salespeople paying €10 from their pocket. So it's actually a pretty good place to find some great talent in Europe. So yeah, that's about it for me actually. So Manuel, do you have some questions for me from the crowd?
Yes, thanks so much for sharing these insights. And a question we basically got is from Petronella again. How would you do prospecting at scale to raise awareness in a digital health space? Let's say for a particular health problem, heart disease in her case, from what I understand. or maybe would you use a different platform than LinkedIn? I
Yeah.
think what it boils down to is also like, what do you do if your ideal customer profile, like doctors, is not as active on LinkedIn as, for example, salespeople?
Mhm. So this is obviously something that will work really well if your ideal customer profile is active on the platform you mentioned. So for me, I use LinkedIn mostly. And if you're working in digital, in tech, that's going to be really good and helpful. But as you said, Petronella, if your doctors are not on LinkedIn, that's maybe not the best place to go. Maybe they can be on Xing. I doubt it. But maybe they have some other places where they hang out virtually. And that's your job to actually go and find that. The thing with LinkedIn, it's a social network. So there's like social network kind of mechanic that is in there, algorithm and all these things, and that you can use and reply that, duplicate that in other platforms. They have certain specific rules, but the logic, the psychological kind of logic is the same. So it's really first of finding if they are on the place you hang out. And if they're not on LinkedIn, then just don't waste your time on LinkedIn, because you won't actually go and address your ideal customer profile. So maybe think about a place where they hang out, and then you can devise a similar strategy basically.
Sounds great. If more question, we have time for one last question before we move on to the next session with Maddie. Any last question to Thibaut before we close the session? Does not. Yeah, there's one. So from Adrian Lutsch, thanks for these interesting insights. How would you optimize your LinkedIn profile if you need to approach both B2B and B2C clients? Interesting one.
That's a good one. So, at first my question would be, why would you approach both? Because typically if you're serving B2B and B2C, you need to have two different products. So yeah, that would be it. However, I can give you a small tip. Basically, in my end, I'm producing content. So in my kind of categorization, I always put in the ICP metric what I call the ICP, the primary target. So the person, typically the decision maker or the fiscal buyer, like C-level, that will sign off on something. There's this type of people. Then the champions, and the champions are typically the user buyers. I produce my content for the champions. So in your case, that would be similar, where the champions would be your B2C and the primary target would be your B2B. And in my case, I sell directly to SDRs, account executive, employees. They purchase stuff that is pretty cheap, like the community for €10, and then they get it expensed by their employer. So that would be both, purchased by B2C, but like paid or expensed by B2B. So that's the only kind of time where I would think it would make sense. Otherwise, I think it's just pick something, pick like either B2B or B2C, because otherwise that's gonna be tough, basically.
Cool. Thanks so much for sharing that. We pretty much have 2 more minutes, if any last questions. So they're coming in as basically windows closed. Great stuff. So Sarah basically asked, how do you allocate your time to LinkedIn compared to email campaigns and cold calling, etc., for lead generation?
So Sarah, what you need to do whenever you're doing any kind of prospecting activity is to do what I call power hour. So for me, in the morning, I start by prospecting on LinkedIn, then email and everything. So, it's all kind of a block where everything is in there. But if you want to separate that, you can actually, let's say, time block and say, okay, I'm going to do like a certain time on LinkedIn, certain time on email, certain time on call. So that's really up to you. And then it's really, if you're just getting started on LinkedIn, you can actually keep some blockers for the other activities that are working historically, but start working progressively on LinkedIn. So in terms of allocation, that's really what matters for you. Typically for me, 95% of my time, of prospecting time, is spent on LinkedIn, because that's where all my crowd is hanging out. I'm like the people in sales are often in LinkedIn, so it's very easy. And that's where I get most of the success. So it really depends on your strategy. But for me, typically, it's like most of the time is spent on LinkedIn because it's good return, but it's not the case for everyone.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing these really actionable insights, Thibaut. That's what I love about working with you and learning from you. It's all actionable. It's no PowerPoint strategy consulting fluff. So thanks again. Have an amazing day. I hope you get like 50 LinkedIn connection requests from this, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, man. Bye.